Rust. A beautiful game filled with overwhelming joy, crushing defeat, massive surges of adrenaline, and...
Yeah, he's out here. He's still camping us. Dude, you are such a bitch. You're so salty.
toxicity. And you want to learn how to play. That's perfect, because in this video, I'm going to be teaching you, a lowly pleb, how to be a slightly more informed lowly pleb. But don't let that discourage you. Most have a hard time starting out in Rust. It's a fairly punishing game that even the fastest learners can struggle with. But the more you learn, and the more you play, the bigger of an advantage you'll have. And that's exactly what I aim to give you with this video. Now, there's a ton of Rust tutorials on YouTube. So what I'll be doing is covering just the bare essentials, and giving you references to more in-depth guides along the way. But before we start, I just want to take a moment to remind you all to like and subscribe. We'll call it even. I'm a lowly YouTube pleb, you're a lowly Rust pleb. We're helping each other out here, really. Alright, so first things first, you're going to want to pick your server. After clicking on the play game button, you'll see you have three main tabs to pick from: Official, Community, and Modded. Official is exactly what it sounds like, Facepunch's official servers. They're highly populated, and they have a good amount of hackers on them. I would not suggest these to beginners. For beginners, I suggest either a community or modded server with a lower population, so you get a chance to hone your skills without being door camped, quickly raided, or aimbotted from across the map. And yeah, unless you play on a PvE server, people will want to kill you so they can steal your loot, and yes, they will want to break into your base and take everything you have. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, you can do the same thing. And while we're on the topic of beginner-friendly Rust servers, I'd like to suggest a server that I admin on that's made by a couple of really good friends of mine called Black Frost. It's a vanilla loot table server with 2x gather and lots of other quality of life changes to make for a very nice player experience. My friends have also completely customized the map, not overly crazy, just a couple of extra little hidden monuments and nice little treats for players to find. It's still just starting out, so it is very beginner friendly and harbors an extremely welcoming and friendly community. I'll leave the link to our Discord in the description so you can come check us out. Okay, awesome, so you've picked your server. You've loaded in, which kind of takes a while, I know. But now you're naked as the day you were born, standing on a beach holding a rock. What do? Simple. You take the rock and you start smashing things, namely trees, nodes, and barrels. Trees are everywhere on the map, so finding these should be really easy. Nodes can also be found just about everywhere, but aren't nearly as common as trees. Where they are pretty common are caves and rocky/mountainous regions. Barrels are most common on roads, but can spawn around monuments, caves, swamps, and even on floating piles in the ocean. Everything you get from these can either be used to help you build your base, or craft items later on. So that's basically the main idea of what you want to gather when you're first starting out. As a beginner, definitely focus more on trees and stones, so you can get yourself your materials for your base. Maybe a little barrels if you spawn close to an area that has them, so you can recycle them a little later and get some quick metal frags. But like I said, your first go around, your best bet is just to go with trees and stones to get the materials to get your base down, and build yourself an axe, a pickaxe, and a spear very quickly to defend yourself against animals and other lower tiered players. Another thing you should be on the lookout for is hemp plants. They give you cloth, which you will need to make clothing to protect you from the elements / different types of damage, bandages to heal yourself, and sleeping bags to give yourself a respawn point. And also, your first ranged weapon, a bow. If you decide to go with a more popular server, crafting a bow and arrows quickly to defend yourself might be better than the spear. Alright, so I know I said I was going to be as in-depth as possible, but this part I had issues finding a video that didn't fully cover what I'm already covering, so I'm just going to tell you the different types of nodes. There's stone nodes, which give you only stone. Metal nodes, which give you metal ore and a small amount of high quality ore. and sulfur nodes, which give you sulfur ore. Anything with ore in the name needs to be smelted in a furnace to give you the finished product. Basically, all you'll have to worry about early on is stone nodes and metal nodes. More so metal nodes after you already get yourself a furnace, so you can get metal frags and high quality metal to upgrade your base later on. So just as a quick little side note to add to what I just told you, furnaces, you're gonna need low grade fuel to craft those. Low grade fuel can be found in red barrels, anywhere I told you barrels can spawn before. But as a nice little trick to work around having to grind a bunch of red barrels, if you manage to find a cave early on, you should check it out. They can be dark and kind of hard to navigate for newer players, but you can make out with a ton of low grade if you get lucky spawns. Also, as another side note, those same crates that you'll find in those caves, if found on roads, floating piles in the ocean, or in monuments, have a chance to give you better tier 1 loot, including guns. Alright, so now that you have at least a couple thousand of both wood and stone, you can start looking to build your base. Now, I could take ages explaining this part, I could make a whole other video on this part, but there's lots and lots of other videos out there, so I'm just going to refer you to these videos, and I'll also have their links in the description. But what I will say is choose wisely as to where you put your base. The difference between having a base last a wipe, a few days, or even a few hours can hang in the balance of location. You don't want to be so far away that you're running across the map for loot, but you also don't want to put yourself in an area controlled by a large group or even heavily geared knowledgeable solos. Unless of course you know how to deal with them, which as a beginner, you really don't. So you want to look for somewhere like mid-range out there maybe, or even maybe in like a heavily wooded area so you have some cover. But that's all up to you. This is merely an outline to aid you in your beginning phases of Rust. Build where you feel comfortable. Okay, so now you've got your base down. Congratulations, you finally have somewhere to take a breather. But don't get too comfortable, you still need to be able to defend your base. That means getting better armor and guns. Guns and armor can be obtained a number of ways. The easiest being the crates on the roads and floating on the ocean that I've mentioned before. So that's where we'll start. Running the roads often is a good idea to both obtain them and getting components to craft them. But alternatively, you can find yourself a boat on the shore and boat around finding the floating heaps of loot, which will give you the same result as running the roads and can be much safer for beginners on more popular servers. You will, however, need low grade to power your boat, so keep that in mind. So that's the basics on how to get early guns, but there's a lot of really good tutorials out there on how to find guns, and it's another subject you can make an entire video on, so I'm just going to refer you to this video, and there will also be a link in the description. Another really important tip I have for all you beginners will be to research your best items. Basically what researching does is destroys said item and gives you a blueprint of it, so that you can learn and craft it whenever you want, as long as you have the required materials. This ensures that your progress isn't all for naught throughout your playtime, in cases of being killed, or even worse, raided. To do this, you will need to craft a research table, which requires at least a tier 1 workbench. Also, researching costs scrap, and the higher tiered the item, the more scrap it costs. Typically, you want to research your best items as fast as you can, but if you manage to get a tier 2, or even a tier 3 item early on, and you don't have a tier 2 or tier 3 workbench to craft it, or the scrap to research it, you can always keep it tucked in your base safely, or even create a stash to hide it in a well-hidden spot that you remember if you're worried about getting raided. Finally, the most important thing I can't stress enough is to play the game how you want to play. And most importantly, have fun. Guides can give you the feeling that a game must be played a certain way, or you're doing it wrong. And that's not at all what I want anyone watching this to take from it. I merely want to give back to a community that I've really enjoyed being a part of. And if I can say I helped even a few of you out with this video, I'm really glad. I know there's some things I didn't mention, but as I said, this was more of a bare essentials guide than anything. If you watched this video and it helped you out in any way or have suggestions for future videos, I'd love to hear about it down in the comment section. Or even if you're an experienced player that thinks I missed something important, go ahead and drop some knowledge down there. Also, if you want to ask me any questions directly, or even watch how I play myself, I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/BrunsTV, so be sure to follow. And also follow me on Twitter to get updates about future videos and streams. Both are linked down in the description. Take it easy.